This is a lecture for my professional responsibility class. We're going to be talking about conflicts of interest and a specific problem with conflicts of interest related to someone else paying your legal fees. Now, sorry about this. This is part of the comments to 1.7. We're going to see this come up again as a standalone rule when we get to 1.8 in one of the subsections there. Again, just to remind my students, if you didn't watch yet one of my earlier videos, the ABA has taken some of the important personal interests, conflicts of interest for lawyers, and has turned them into standalone rules under 1.8. It takes a while, though, for states like to gradually, little by little, one here, one there, adopt new rule provisions or amendments that the ABA adopts. So I'm teaching you the current version of the model rules, but your individual state, depending on where you live, may not have adopted something that the ABA adopted 10 years ago. Because of that, the ABA also incorporates a lot of this material into the comments of 1.7, because basically every jurisdiction has some variation on 1.7. And so the case is, you could still face discipline in your state, even if we don't have a standalone rule about this, under your state's version of 1.7. So here we go, and this is comment 13 to ABA Model Rule 1.7. And this is about someone else paying the client's legal fees. A lawyer may be paid from a source other than the client, including a co-client, if the client is informed of the fact and consents and the arrangement does not compromise the lawyer's duty of loyalty or independent judgment to the client. And the standalone version of this is found at 1.8F, and we will get to that pretty soon in the course. So sometimes, this is pretty common, you'll have one client, especially when you have co-plaintiffs, co-defendants, very common with criminal co-defendants, that one of them hires a lawyer, and for everybody, for the group of defendants or the group of plaintiffs, and so forth. So they're paying because they can. And sometimes this is sinister, right? This is the gang leader or the mafia don, godfather, or somebody like that who pays for the lawyer for all of their henchmen. But it could be as simple as 4 high school kids get arrested on prom night for minor in possession. They were in a car together. They all had alcohol. And so one of them, their family has a lawyer they use all the time. And so they offer to have their lawyer represent everybody else. That's okay. Please note, everybody has to be aware of this and kind of sign off on it, has to consent to the arrangement, and it can't impact, like the lawyer can't show favoritism to the client who's actually paying the bills. Make sure you get that. The lawyer is not allowed to favor the client in a group of co-clients, the one who's paying the bills. Also, the fact that the client has to be informed suggests to you that occasionally we have times where some anonymous secret admirer offers to pay someone's legal fees. And so imagine that you have a person who has limited financial resources. They have a legal problem. They go talk to a lawyer. They find out how much it's going to cost. They realize that they absolutely can't afford that, and so they call the lawyer back and say, "I can't do it." And then the lawyer gets a call from, let's say, your stalker X, right? This person that you've tried to get out of your life, who thinks that they can weasel their way back into your life by hiring a lawyer for you. And they don't want the lawyer to tell you who's paying for their legal fees. They want to surprise you later on so you'll feel grateful. Well, you have a right to know and to refuse to let someone else pay your legal fees. If the acceptance of payment from any other source presents a significant risk that the lawyer's representation of the client will be materially limited by the lawyer's own interest in accommodating the person paying for the lawyer's fee, or by the lawyer's responsibility to a payer who is also a co-client, then the lawyer must comply with the requirements of paragraph B before accepting the representation. What are we talking about? 1.7B, which requires getting informed consent confirmed in writing, and that the lawyer is that the conflict is not non-consentable, that there's no like law prohibiting this, and that you feel like you will actually do a good job providing competent representation for everybody involved. Okay, and that's the end of that. I do want to say a quick word about this before we move on. We're going to come back to this at 1.8F, but we have a few other situations. By far, the most common situation where someone else is paying the lawyer that's not a co-client is the insurance company, right? So if you have a liability insurance company and you get sued, they're going to hire a lawyer and pay the lawyer to represent you as the policyholder. Similarly, the injured party often will ask if they ask their insurer to pay their medical bills, their insurer then will take over their claim and seek indemnification or reimbursement from the tortfeasor and so forth. So again, they're going to be, insurance companies are constantly hiring lawyers to represent their policyholders, and then it can create a conflict of interest if the insurance company is telling the lawyer, don't settle this case, or hurry up and settle the case, or settle the case within this amount, or turn down any settlement offer that's not above this amount, and so forth. The other two scenarios that are very common are parents with grown children. So if you think about a college kid who's over 18, but really not financially independent, they get arrested for a DWI or something. Very, very, very common that the student or even a grad student's parents hire a lawyer for them. And again, then the question is who's in the driver's seat and who's telling the lawyer what to do. The student, the kid, is the client, not necessarily the parents paying the bill. But as you can expect, the people paying the bills often expect to get to say how things work and whether we're going to agree to a plea bargain or something like that. And then the third situation is employers. And so this could be you work for a small family business and you have a lawsuit related to your work, and the employer, even though they're not vicariously liable, they agree to indemnify you. A lot of corporate executives get indemnified as part of their contract, their compensation contract for lawsuits from the company. And very importantly, a lot of unionized employees, if they have any sort of work-related litigation, the union provides a lawyer for them. Or you could think about police unions or firemen's unions. When there's an incident, will provide the lawyer, and they're paying for the lawyer in theory for you. So all of those situations can create a special type of conflict of interest where the lawyer it could affect their judgment and their loyalty.